Have you ever gone out of your way to hide something from your parents? Not because you were ashamed of it, but because you just didn't want the hassle of explaining it? That's been my life for the past 2 years. My name is Allison, and for as long as I can remember, I've been trying to avoid the judgmental gaze of my mother. It's not that I don't love her, but she has a way of making everything feel like a competition. When I moved into my dream home, I knew I had to keep it a secret from her, and I came up with a plan that seemed harmless enough at the time. Now, I'm wondering if I might have crossed a line. It all started when I bought my house. It's a beautiful place. 5 bedrooms, a huge kitchen, and sprawling acreage. I fell in love with it the moment I saw it. But the first thing that popped into my head after I closed on it wasn't excitement about decorating or hosting parties. It was the image of my mother's raised eyebrow, her pursed lips as she mentally calculated how much the property must have cost. You see, my parents are frugal, to put it mildly. They worked hard for everything they have and never spent a dime they didn't have to. Growing up, I was taught that anything more than the bare minimum was wasteful. My mother is especially proud of their modest home and the fact that they've never needed anything bigger. So, when I bought a house that was probably 4 times the size of theirs, I knew she'd have something to say about it, and none of it would be good. So I made a decision. They would never know about my house. Not the real one anyway. My friend Jessica owns an Airbnb in the same town where I live. It's a cute, modest little house. 3 bedrooms, a small garden, nothing flashy. The kind of place my mom would approve of. I'd stayed there a few times myself when Jessica needed someone to watch over the place, so I was familiar with every nook and cranny. When my parents announced they were coming to visit for the first time since I moved, I panicked. I wasn't ready to deal with the barrage of questions, the veiled criticisms, the inevitable lectures on financial responsibility. So I called Jessica and asked if I could rent the Airbnb for the weekend. She agreed, and just like that, the plan was set. My parents arrived and I took them straight to the Airbnb. I hadn't lied about anything. I just didn't correct their assumption when they thought it was my house. As we pulled up to the charming little place, my mom's first words were, "Well, it's nice enough, I suppose. A little small, but cozy." I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. This was exactly the reaction I'd been hoping for. She didn't love it, but she didn't hate it either. It was safe, unassuming, just like I wanted. The weekend went smoothly. We had a nice time. My dad even commented on how he liked the garden. My mom, of course, couldn't resist pointing out a few things she would change. The curtains are too dark, don't you think? And this couch isn't nearly as comfortable as the one at home, but overall they seemed satisfied. When they left, I was relieved. The plan had worked perfectly. Over the next 2 years, every time my parents came to visit, I rented Jessica's Airbnb. It became a routine. They'd arrive, we'd spend a quiet weekend in the modest little house, and then they'd go home none the wiser. Jessica and I had a good laugh about it. She thought it was hilarious that I was renting her place to fool my parents, and she always gave me a discount when I needed it. I never told anyone else, though. Part of me knew it was a little strange, but it seemed harmless enough. After all, I wasn't really lying, just avoiding an awkward situation. But the longer it went on, the more I started to feel weird about it. It's one thing to keep a secret for a little while, but after 2 years, it started to feel more like a deception. Especially when my parents would make comments about how proud they were that I was living within my means, not wasting money on anything extravagant. The last time they visited, things got complicated. My mom was in an unusually good mood. She actually complimented the Airbnb, saying, "You've really made this place your own, haven't you? It's just right for someone your age, small enough to manage but big enough to have a little company." I forced a smile and nodded, not trusting myself to say anything. But inside, I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. This had gone too far. My mother was praising me for something that wasn't even true. Then she dropped the bomb. "Your father and I were talking, and we think it's time to downsize. This place is so charming. We were wondering if you could help us find something like it when the time comes." I almost choked on my tea. The idea of my parents downsizing into a house they thought was mine, when in reality, my own house was a massive estate they'd never seen, was too much. I realized then that this charade had to end. But now I'm stuck. If I tell them the truth, it's going to be a mess. They'll be hurt, confused, and probably angry. My mom will definitely have something to say about the real house, and I'll have to deal with the fallout. But if I don't tell them, I'm just digging myself deeper into this lie. And it's not like I can keep renting Jessica's Airbnb forever. So here I am, asking the internet, am I the asshole for renting an Airbnb every time my parents come to visit, just to avoid them finding out about my real house? Is it wrong to let them believe I'm living modestly when the truth is so different? Or was this just a harmless way to keep the peace that spiraled out of control? I never wanted to deceive them, but now I'm not sure how to fix it. What would you do in my shoes?